On the US oil, we have been quite profitable since yesterday, and let's quickly run through how the week started for us here on the US oil. Well, we had a situation at the beginning of the week where price action had a bearish gap. As you can see here, price closed last week's trading session around the $80 level, and when the week started here, we saw a situation where price started around the $79.50 level, leaving a huge bearish gap, which was a sign that a lot of trading activity did happen during the course of last week's weekend. Now we saw a situation here where price action was caught within a flat channel between the $79.50 level and the $79 area, and what we anticipated was a price should either break out of the channel or break down of the channel to give us an opportunity to trade. However, funny enough for us, on Monday, during the first couple of hours of the New York session, we saw a breakout retest of the $79.50 level, which gave us a beautiful opportunity to buy, and price action moved over 130 pips in our favor before we started seeing this bearish momentum that started later on that day. And in fact, we were not keen to join the bearish momentum, as we were thinking that because of the fact that price action broke out of the $79.50 level, we shall be looking out for more buying opportunities at the retest of structure. So we had an attempt here on Tuesday where we looked out for buying opportunity, but we were taken out of that position to further emphasize that sellers are likely going to be coming in this market, and this was followed by multiple rejection of the $79.50 level, giving us a clue of selling pressure around that area. And as a result of this, we saw the first breakdown of $79 level here, and this was a beautiful sign that sellers might likely take over this market. And during the early hours of Wednesday, we saw the breakdown retest of the $79 level, which gave us an opportunity to sell the US oil, and price action moved about 150 pips in our direction before we saw this bullish momentum happen. Now on Wednesday, we had another opportunity here where we saw buying opportunity. Price action broke above the $79 level. We saw some how many pips was that? I think around 50-80 pips thereabout before another wave of bearish momentum happened. And since then, we saw a situation where price was unable to break out of the $79.50 level, and at this point in time, it was a beautiful signal that sellers might likely be coming in at this point. And one thing I told you yesterday is that for a better and significant confirmation that sellers are very strong in this market, we want to see a breakdown of the $78 level, which has been a strong buying niche in this market since the beginning of this week. And that was exactly what we saw here during the early hours of today. Price action broke down the $78 level, and price has been trading to the downside from this area. And for those who are taking advantage of this move right here, well done to you for being on standby to catch this move, as you will currently be running with 100 pips in profit at this point. So well done once again to those who have been part of this trade. And at this point in time, the next thing we want to be doing right now is to secure the current position in order to protect ourselves against any sudden pullback that may happen from this point. So the most appropriate area to move our stop loss at this point, I will be suggesting that we move our stop loss to somewhere right below the $77.80 level. Let's give some room for price action to breathe, with the hopes that we will continue to see price action trending to the downside. So with this information we have here, and you've moved your stop loss accordingly, let's see if the market is going to be giving us more opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. And as we get prepared for the New York session today, I would like us to scale up into the daily time frame, where we want to be having an holistic view of what has really been going on this week, then see if the bearish momentum we are in right now is still going to be very valid as the week comes to a close. So in order to do this now, we want to be scaling up into the daily time frame. And if we scale up into the daily time frame, the first thing we saw here at the beginning of the week was to map out this bearish momentum that started 7 months ago, and as a result of that, we had this bearish trend line figured out after connecting this series of lower highs here. Now, if we zoom into what has been happening here in the last 3 to 4 months, another structure here that which caught our attention is the $80 level. And if you look at the structure here since the month of November, we saw how the $80 level has been a strong selling niche for participants in this market. Despite the fact that we had a strong demand zone around this area, we saw a situation that where price, as soon as price gets into the $80 level, we saw sellers rejecting or negating all attempt by the buyers to break out of that structure. The same thing also happened here in the month of December. I think the first week of December here also, we saw selling niche around this area, negating all attempt by the buyers to break out of that structure. And in fact, price action closed around the $80 level at the end of last year's trading session, and at the beginning of this year we saw another engulfing candle taking price out of that structure to further emphasize the strength of the sellers at this point. And the same thing continued to happen. In fact, it went a couple of weeks ago, we saw a situation where we saw a consolidation phase around here, which was characterized with more selling pressure, dropping price back into the $80 level. And during the course of last week's trading session, we saw a situation where price closed around the $80 level, and since the beginning of this week we have cited a situation where price has continued to trade below the $80 level to further emphasize the strength of the sellers at this particular point in time. And during the live session yesterday, we were able to identify the importance of the $78 level, which is right here. And one of the things that we took note of here is the fact that during the second week of the month of January, we saw a situation where price was caught within the channel between the $82.50 level, which was the resistance point of the channel, and the $78 area, which was the support level of that channel. And in fact, we saw the breakdown of the channel during the later part of the month of January stroke the early days of this month to give us a signal that sellers are still very strong in this market. Though we have a demand zone here around the $73.50 level, which has been negating all sellers' attempts, pushing price to the upside one more time, but we saw rejection of the $80 level. And during the course of yesterday's trading session, we anticipated that we want to be seeing our price action will be reacting to the $78 level to decide if we are going to be buying or selling the USOIL. And one thing we said we want to be looking out for buying opportunity is that if we start seeing buy pressure above the $78 level on our lower time frame, breakout retest to structure will be giving us an opportunity to buy the USOIL. However, we mentioned that if price action does break down the $78 level, it will be a beautiful opportunity to join a trigger to the downside. And in fact, this is exactly what we saw here. And in the last 24 hours, we have seen a situation where price action has broken down the $78 level to further emphasize the strength of the sellers at this point. And like I told you on the 1 hour time frame, we have moved our stop loss accordingly to lock in some profit here as we continue to monitor price action. So for today now, what are we going to be planning to do? How do we intend to take advantage of more trading opportunity? Well, for those who had missed out on the breakdown of the $78 level, at this point in time we need to be very, very patient to see how price action will be reacting to this trend line. And what is that trend line here? If we look at the structure here since the first week of the month of December, we saw how price action has been finding bullish momentum since it tested the lowest point it had ever been in years, and that is the $70 level here. And one thing we saw here was that price action continued to find higher lows to further emphasize that there is some buy pressure around this area. So we saw the higher low here at the $73.50 level, and since then price is yet to break down this structure here. And if we connect the series of higher lows here, we were able to identify this bullish trend line, and as a result of this we can see that price is currently approaching that bullish trend line at this point. Hence we need to see how price action will be reacting to this trend line to determine what our next line of action will be. So if price action gets into that bullish trend line and we start seeing buy pressure around this area, we might likely be seeing another wave of bullish momentum. And if we go to as far back as the month of September here, you will see how this area around the bullish trend line had been a strong buying niche in the past. So we should not ignore the possibilities that buyers might likely take over this market if it approaches that bullish trend line that I just showed you earlier around the $77 or the $76.50 area. So we want to be taking into consideration how price action will be reacting to this level to determine what our next line of action will be. Now, if it so happens that price action breaks down the bullish trend line, then it might be a beautiful opportunity to add more position to our existing trade if we start seeing rejection of the trend line or reversal patterns below the trend line here to join another wave of bearish momentum to the downside. So these are the things we shall be looking forward to probably for today or next week on the USOIL. So at this point in time, kindly move your stop loss accordingly, secure the current sell position we are in right now as we look forward to see how price action will be reacting to the 77 is it a 77 area? No, I think the $76.50 level area during the New York session today. So in that regard, we shall be scaling down into the 1 hour time frame, where I want us to be looking at how the $76.50 level is positioned on our lower time frame to determine how we want to be trading this. Now if we scale down to the 1 hour time frame, so right now I am on the 1 hour time frame, and what we simply want to do right now is to identify the $76.50 level here. And for the sake of this current structure here, I will be using the $76.60 area, which has a confluence with the current structure here. If you look at what we have here in the past, you can see how the $76.50 level had been a strong buying niche. We saw buy pressure from that area. The same thing also happened here during the second week of this month, and price action is currently approaching that structure. So for the sake of clarity, I will be labeling this structure here. So we have this label as the $76.60 level, 76 level around here. So what I'm simply saying around this area is that we need to see how price action will be reacting to this level to decide if we are going to be adding more position to our existing sell position here, or we're going to be planning to join another rally from this point. So what we want to be seeing here is if we start seeing buy pressure resume around this area again, we might likely see a situation where price will come back, do a retest of the $78 level or the trend line here to incite another wave. And if a breakout of the level happens, then we might likely be looking forward to another opportunity to join a bullish momentum. However, if price action breaks down the $76.60 level, then this will be a beautiful opportunity for us to add more position to our current sell position that is running right now. So this is what we shall be looking forward to on the USOIL. Please and please, for those who are already in the sell position here, have the breakdown of the $78 level. Kindly move your stop loss accordingly, secure this current position, and let's wait out and see how price action will be reacting to the structure at the $76.60 level in order to decide what our next line of action will be. If you have any question regarding what I just explained so far, feel free to drop your enquiries in the comment section, and I will be checking the comment section from time to time to see if there are any questions for me.